In today's video, we have all the latest NHL news and rumors around the league. Tonight's rumor mill focusing on teams like Pittsburgh and Montreal. Could those two teams be hooking up on a deal soon? Lots of scouting been taking place between the two clubs. Plus, David Jiricek appears to be on his way out of Columbus. We'll discuss what the future may hold and what teams are reportedly in the mix there. Plus, we have some other trade talk as well around the Boston Bruins. If the coaching change doesn't help ignite the team, what players might find themselves on the move? Plus, we have a big day for Jumbo Joe Thornton in San Jose, who's being honored and having his number retired. Plus, the OHL may pursue aggressive expansion. All that, plus some news from the waiver wire and some injury updates coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today. It's been another busy day of NHL hockey, NHL news. Of course, big day in San Jose tonight. Of course, one of the all-time greats, Jumbo Joe Thornton, being honored, having his number sent to the rafters. Of course, Jumbo Joe Thornton, not only one of the greatest Sharks of all time, but one of the all-time NHL greats. Former first overall pick, carved out an incredible career. One of the if not the best passer and assist guy of his generation. He was completely dominant in that area. The number of assists and great passes as a man made was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, he's still involved to some degree with the Sharks. We know he's actually acting as a billet for former first overall pick from last year, Macklin Celebrini of the Sharks. Great, family and role model for Celebrini to be around all the time. I know Patrick Marleau is still involved, working, with the Sharks as well as is also doing the same thing with some of the other younger players. I think he has Will Smith living with him, if I'm not mistaken. But Thornton is a great, great player. Just overall, nice to see him being honored with the Sharks tonight. One of the stories that nobody really knew about that was told with the celebration tonight just goes to show you not only the character, but the kind of person that Thornton was, doing lots of good deeds off the ice that he never really wanted nor received credit for, but that's the kind of person he was he wasn't doing good deeds for the credit, just doing it to be a good person. But one story that was told with one of the staff of the Sharks was that earlier in Jumbo's career, he got word that the staff member got word that he had to go help somebody move into an apartment. He thought maybe the team had acquired a player, had somebody new coming to town or something, and it wasn't the case at all. Actually, Jumbo Joe Thornton had helped a homeless woman who was a mother of a couple of young kids get off the streets and got them into a 2-bedroom apartment that he was paying for to help make their lives better, get them off the streets and give them a chance at a much better life. And he didn't want anybody to know about it. So, that's just goes to show you just how good of a person and family that he comes from and has created. So, one of the all-time greats honored in San Jose tonight. Pretty unique guy as well. Big personality, big moments of hockey. The only thing that eluded him was that elusive Stanley Cup. But otherwise, he's goes down as one of the greats in the NHL and one of the best, if not the best, in Sharks history. Lots of other news around the league today. Quick update from the NHL waiver wire. Today, the Detroit Red Wings have Tim Gettinger on waivers, a player that was on season opening injury reserve and now needs to be demoted down to the minors. So nothing real major there. He'll clear and be reassigned tomorrow. On the injury front, we got an update from Austin Matthews today, who is back in North America, back with the Leafs. Was skating this morning briefly, spent some time on the ice, which was the first time in a little while, which was good to see. Matthews, of course, has just returned from his trip to Germany. He spoke to the media, just kind of outlined the fact that he had something nagging in training camp and then thought maybe he could play through it. It was getting better. Then it kind of started getting worse. And then they thought they kind of got it cleared up, and then it was kind of nagging him again. And he just decided that the best thing was to shut things down, be proactive, get the injury looked after so that it wasn't a problem all season. Whatever it was, he didn't go into details to say what it was. Obviously, this medical person in Germany, somebody he dealt with before, and somebody he was quite comfortable with and wanted to go back and see again. And they feel like it was helpful, and he's making good progress towards full recovery. So we don't know details on that. But he's doing better. He's back with the Leafs. Not going to play in the next game, but he says maybe Wednesday against Florida is a possibility. So we will see where things go on that front. But he should be back soon enough. Tage Thompson of the Sabres out again tonight. And the Sabres are actually in San Jose tonight to play the Sharks on Jumbo Joe Thornton's night. So again, the big centerman out of the lineup, which is certainly a big piece there for Buffalo. But they've been doing well on their road trip without him so far. But I know as I record this video, I believe it was 2-1 San Jose, but I think it was early in the second period. I can't remember the exact time on the clock. Some other updates here around the NHL. Nashville, Michael McCarron's day-to-day out of the lineup. Pittsburgh activated Kevin Hayes today. Minnesota, Kirill Kaprizov is out of the lineup. They're saying day-to-day for right now, but I think he'll be reevaluated, and they could be dealing with something a little bit more, but haven't really gone into a lot of details on that front. Patrick Laine in Montreal is starting to skate, which is good. Wearing a no-contact jersey, so he's not like a full participant with everything, but trending in the right direction, and they expect that jersey color to change to a contact regular jersey sometime in the near future. So that's promising. Big milestone tonight as well. Sidney Crosby scores goal number 600 in his career, which is phenomenal, especially considering that Crosby's really been known as a playmaking pass-first centerman really his whole career. I mean, obviously he's proven at times that he can be one of the top goal scorers as well. I think Crosby can do anything he sets his mind to at a high level, but generally speaking, that's what he's known for. He's not exactly known for being, 50, 60, 70 goal guy. He's known for being a really complete player, racks up tons of assists, good amount of goals, but that's just where his body work goes. But 600 goals for a guy who's not really known as a pure goal scorer is amazing. But he's played a long time, and obviously his skill sets allowed him to be quite successful on that front. It's been a little while since he hit 599, so it's nice to see them hit 500 or 600 tonight. Unfortunately, that game against Utah's not going overly well. The Penguins were down quite a bit. I think Utah was up 5 or 6-1 or 6-2 or something like that as I started to record here. So not a good night, but a big milestone nonetheless. If Crosby continues to play at the pace he's on, he's about 25 goals away from being tied for as high as 16th overall in NHL history, which would put him up there with Joe Sakic and Jerome McGinley at 625. So realistically, considering how much hockey's left this year, I think that's possible. I don't know if he can really go much higher than that this year, but that's a big jump here in the ladder of all-time list that we could see Crosby take this season. As I mentioned as well, one of the updates from Elliot Friedman tonight on the Second Intermission Saturday headlines was talking about the changes that are coming with the NCAA rule. Of course, that changes for affecting junior kids not being eligible. Of course, that's changing next year. Of course, we know right now, in the past, if you play junior hockey in Canada, you're not eligible to play college hockey in the United States in the NCAA, and that's changing starting next August. So, of course, lots of players have played outside of the Canadian Major Junior Hockey League if they had full intention of going to college to protect their eligibility, whether they went to the USHL, for example, the States, or maybe they played in one of the other tiered junior leagues in Canada that's not part of Major Junior, like the BCHL or the AJHL, for example. We've seen some guys do that, like Alex Newhook, Cale Makar, like some of those younger players that have gone the college route. That's all changing now. So you can play junior hockey, when you're 16, 17, still play NCAA. I'm not sure what the common path is going to be, but we could see a lot of players down the road that have a mix of major junior experience and college experience, right? So it's kind of changing things here, and it's still not really, you can't predict exactly how it's all going to work out, how it's all going to, change things, except I think it's going to be better for the players because the players are going to have more options, and they're not going to have so much, the decisions to make at such a young age. So there is that. But one thing that Elliot was talking about was the OHL and part of the CHL in Canada. They had, I guess, what you call kind of like an emergency meeting, and a lot of these leagues have been doing that lately. I'm basically trying to determine how do they react to this news. And apparently the news out of that meeting was that the OHL is going to pursue aggressive expansion. So obviously that's quite significant. I wonder what this means, because we know that we've seen I wouldn't call it a mass exodus, but we've seen a lot of players lately leave the USHL and head to junior in Canada. I think I've probably seen at least a half dozen cases in the past week to 10 days, 2 weeks here. And I wonder if we could see USHL teams change leagues and go into the OHL, or if the expansion, if they don't take over USHL teams, if it's going to be more American-based teams. Either way, Friedman thought maybe 2 teams for aggressive expansion, but he was told no, it could even be more than that. So obviously lots of leagues, lots of reactions to this news, how it's going to affect the landscape of the development of hockey players between junior, NCAA, etc. And obviously we're going to see lots of continued reactions and changes here, but we may see a big expansion in the OHL, and I wonder what that's going to look like coming soon. Now, as far as some trade talk goes, lots of news on some different teams. Let's start with the David Jiricek situation with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who we've been following this story for a few days now, essentially after comments came from GM Don Waddell saying that in the coming days he intends to have all this sorted out, and then he demoted Jiricek to the American Hockey League. And I think my reaction was, is just really what's best for Jiricek, or what's the play here? What's the rationale? And I think, honestly, it's to get him playing more. They clearly don't feel with their roster, which I have a hard time understanding. And maybe I just need to watch Jiricek play more to see where he needs to work on and stuff. But I mean, I've seen some Blue Jackets games, but I haven't seen them as much as I'd like to really be able to speak more on the situation. But clearly they don't feel comfortable putting him out there in a consistent top 6 role. So they've sent him to the minors, and I think they want him to be able to play down there and play more minutes, more situations, and so teams can see what he's like at that level. And I think they're just trying to kind of showcase him here. It's a right shot defenseman that was a high pick. Many felt that his draft stock slipped a little bit a couple of years back because of the injury that he suffered. I don't know. A lot of people said that the Jackets got a draft steal on draft day, and here we are a couple of years later, and it's like frustration over lack of opportunity. So it's kind of bizarre. I mean, teams that are rumored to be in and around this Jiricek situation is Edmonton and Nashville are the main ones that get to play. But as Friedman said on headlines, he doesn't see a great fit in Edmonton. But really, after they lost Broberg, I mean, it makes sense that they're going to be looking for that kind of player. Problem is that according to Friedman, the Blue Jackets, if they're going to move Jiricek, they want another good young player in return. So basically, not necessarily exactly what they're trading, but they want something in return, similar age, similar profile. So, what is that going to do? Can Edmonton do that? They don't really have much that kind of, says, oh, well, they could move this guy. They don't really have that. So I'm not really sure what they would offer. It'd have to be really future based, and I don't know that it's going to be easy to do. Nashville would have more options. They do have some good young talented players there that might be a little bit further behind in development, might be a little further away from making the NHL that they might be willing to take or move. I don't know. But certainly those are the 2 teams being mentioned. But I wouldn't rule out others. I mean, there are lots of other teams around as well. I know in the early days of the Jiricek rumor mill, there was some talk about Montreal, but they do have lots of right shot defensemen on their own in between Mailloux and Reinbacher. Now, would they want to move one of those guys for Jiricek? Do they see him as an upgrade? I don't know that they really would. So we'll have to see what happens. But the Jiricek situation apparently is, I guess, in a situation where there many insiders are saying it's not if, but when. So where he ends up and exactly what the return is still to be determined, of course. And are Pittsburgh and Montreal going to hook up on a deal is another big topic around the NHL right now. Those two teams have apparently been heavily scouting each other a lot. Kyle Dubas has been watching Montreal extensively. Both have players on expiring contracts. Both are not where they want to be in the NHL standings. Obviously, Pittsburgh's struggling hardcore. Montreal right now is still at the bottom of the Atlantic as well. Completely different areas. I mean, Montreal has been rebuilding and are trying to take a step towards moving up, where Pittsburgh is trying not to fall from grace and trying to win with their star players, that they just don't have the pieces around them anymore, and just that team is just not good enough. Completely different situations. But having said that, Pittsburgh has guys like Beauvillier, Puljujarvi, Pettersson that could be they are pending UFAs, right? Now, would Montreal make sense for them to be looking at those guys? I don't know, right? I mean, I guess if they really like a guy like Beauvillier or Puljujarvi, then maybe it gives them a chance if they make a trade to get a free look. Montreal's got their own players in the same boat. I mean, look at Yoel Armia, Christian Dvorak. David Savard, David Savard would not go to Pittsburgh. Montreal would be holding off. David Savard or Mike Matheson, if either of those guys are traded, I think it'd be a little bit later in the season, and they're going to try to extract a first-round pick. That's not going to be a Penguin deal. That would be for a contending team. But a guy like Armia, Dvorak, something along those lines, I'm not sure that Pittsburgh would have a lot of interest. Maybe they want more of a younger player coming back, but Montreal's going to have a roster crunch here, and they're going to have some decisions to make. So Laine, of course, like we said, not ready to come back yet, but he's getting closer. He's on the ice. He's skating, progressing well. They have Raphael Harvey-Pinard. I believe is on a conditioning stint right now. He's not too far away. So, they're going to have a couple of returning forwards here in the coming days, and they may have to move off some guys here. I mean, they do have some guys that are playing right now who would be eligible to go to the minors. Like, they don't have to make a trade, but just the way these two teams have been aggressively scouting each other, it does make you think that something is up. And they're both in a position where they could swap players and kind of give themselves a free look at them to see if they would be a better fit than what they have longer term before they hit free agency, and to see if they have an opportunity to re-sign them. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know if it's going to be a huge trade. Hard to say if it's going to be a trade for sure, but these two teams have been watching each other very closely. So we're going to have to monitor that and see what materializes. The other team that's getting a lot of attention, of course, is Boston. I reviewed an Athletic article from Fluto Shinzawa talking about the Bruins, and basically we saw the big coaching change. Okay, the hammer falls, Montgomery's out, and as Elliot Friedman talked about on his podcast, it kind of seems like maybe Montgomery wasn't sure that he was going to stay in Boston anyway. They had failed negotiations for an extension. It seemed like Montgomery himself, as a coach, might have been a little frustrated. Combination of player personnel moves, the roster, and then on top of that, the fact that he wasn't really allowed to hire his own assistants. I think he wanted a little bit more leeway, given the fact that he had two amazing regular seasons with the Bruins. Won the Coach of the Year award. A historical season, and after 2 years going on year 3, and he's still not trusted enough to kind of be given certain provisions, which to me is surprising. And obviously it's surprising if they're not going to just, pay him a little bit better, right? So it's kind of confusing. So they weren't sold on him given the team's results, and he wasn't sold on them given how things have gone and the connection with management and all that. So obviously it was something that could have been doomed from the beginning, but at the end of the day, Joe Sacco's a new coach. The team's not where it wants to be. It did win tonight against Detroit. Obviously, that's a couple of wins in a row now. So will they get hot? Will they get the new coach bump? Will they stay that way? That's the big question. But if they don't continue to roll here and to get themselves on track, this article reviewed some of the names you could see as potential trade baits, and it mentions guys like Brandon Carlo, Charlie Coyle, and even Captain Brad Marchand. With Marchand talked about the fact that, maybe he hasn't played his best hockey. I mean, he did have the goal tonight, obviously game-winning goal too, so it seems like a weird time to bring this up, but that's just what you never know what you find in the news. But essentially, they haven't come to terms on an extension for Marchand. Is he still playing at a high level? He definitely is still a good player. Is he the player he was, 3, 4, 5 years ago? No, he's not. So I think that's going to really determine what the contract is, right? And at the end of the day, if the team decides, if the team goes on another skid here and the coaching change it's not enough to get them into the playoffs, will they change their mind basically on Marchand's leadership, and will they be like, okay, maybe we need to go in a new direction now rather than extend him into his late 30s and watch, further decline here? I don't know, right? I mean, look at what Bergeron did in his final years, and look at what they did with Chara. At the end of the day, they chose not to bring back Chara. That was the Bruins' choice. They've walked away from a captain before. This is not something that would be shocking news. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but obviously, depending on how he plays and how the team does, will be a big determination if that happens. But, we'll see. So far, the coaching changes worked. But Charlie Coral has an 8-team no-trade list as well. So, there's certainly some restrictions there. But we know, as I talked about a few days ago, Brandon Carlo, there was a big trade where he was in the mix as well. Obviously, didn't get too far because they never made it happen. But those are the names to watch in Boston, according to their beat writer, if things don't work well here with this coaching change. But so far, they're 2-0, and we'll see where it goes. But, the big thing for me is, are they going to bring back Marchand? That's going to be the absolute biggest decision this team needs to make in the short term. And if they decide that maybe we need to go in a new direction, then if he became available at the deadline, that would be very, very, very interesting. You're probably going to see some of their top rivals trying to get him if need be. So be curious to see where things go on that front. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.